Hello and welcome to the VST Weekly Roundup. This is the final football weekly roundup. I was going to say roundup, but we got one more, and we'll touch on it later on in the show. But this is our finals edition, straight finals. That's it. We had two teams playing for rings in Open. Birmingham was looking to go 4 straight. They were facing Garfield, and in D2, Chatsworth was trying to get their first since 1998, and they were facing Fairfax. But first, our esteemed panel that I'm always very happy to have with me. I've got Kenny Hodges and Kaylie Harden. How are you guys doing?
I'm feeling great. It's time to put a nice bow on the end of this great season. And we're getting closer.
Yeah, man. Oh, like I said, every week, it's the same story. It always never changes. Anytime we get to do these and talk about our teams, it's always a fun time to me. I'm a little tired from a Vegas vacation over the weekend, but listen, got enough energy to kind of talk about these championship games, so ready to jump right on in.
All right. Well, if you didn't have any energy, then we'd have some problems because these two games brought the energy that we were hoping they would. The first, Chatsworth and Fairfax, Coach Marvin Street looking to get his first championship as a coach. Incidentally, he was part of that 1998 Chatsworth team to win a city title. Unfortunately, due to some interesting circumstances in the game, Chatsworth fell 20-14 in overtime. It was a hell of a game, and Kenny will have a lot of in-depth breakdowns for us in a moment. Before that, the other game was the Open Division. Birmingham did what they've done for the last few years and just told the city section that this is theirs. And people who want to come and take it, all these schools that have designs of taking them down, well, they failed again. In convincing fashion, Birmingham 49-7. That makes 4 straight years as your Open Division champion. And Kaylie will have an in-depth breakdown of this one. But without further ado, we will kick it to Kenny. Kenny, this Chatsworth Fairfax game is kind of everything you want in a football game. It was hard-hitting. It was hard-fought. It was close. It was emotional. Went down to the wire. Went to overtime. There is a small damper on it, but I will let you take it from there without spoiling too much.
Yeah, let's get right into it, man. The D2 championship, the Chatsworth Chancellors, our representative from the Valley, taking on the Fairfax Lions, a team that has had a remarkable run in the D2 championship, especially from the position they were in, pulling upsets every step of the way. And coming into this championship, they knew they had a good shot based on how they play. But, styles make fights. We know what Chatsworth is. We cover them every week. They're smash mouth, double wing, run it right at you. There's no mistaking in what they're going to do. To beat Chatsworth, you got to get a handle on their run game, that vaunted run game that is led by their leader, Isaiah Rameau. And for Fairfax, what we've learned, we saw what they did against Panorama. We saw what they've done every step of the way in the postseason. They're an air attack. They like to put the ball in the air. Ivan Levant, their quarterback, is a pocket passer in every sense of the word. He wants to stand back there and chuck the ball around. So it was going to be a battle of what team could ultimately put a damper on defensively on what the others wanted to do. And early on in the game, both teams sort of held their ground early. You saw what Fairfax game plan was right away. Yes, they were going to go to the air attack, but they knew with that Chatsworth front, they weren't going to be able to just stand back there and hold the ball for 3-4 seconds at a time, because you're not going to be able to keep those Chatsworth D linemen from getting in the backfield and disrupting things. So you saw early on Fairfax would get their running backs involved in the pass game early, getting the ball out quickly, getting the ball out to the running backs in the flat, attacking along the edges of that Chatsworth defense, not going away from where their strength is, which is right up the middle, right in that front seven. And they had some success, but Chatsworth was able to kind of turn them away, even though they were putting together some drives. They also missed some opportunities in the past game. Ivan Levant was kind of off, especially when he had to be off platform with his throws. He kind of would miss some wide open receivers, kind of leaving the ball a little bit too high, a little bit too low, and that sort of kind of stalled out their drive. Conversely, Chatsworth was trying to get the run game going with Ramo, but Fairfax, and kudos to them, as we've seen them do in the postseason, their front seven, the offense gets talked about with Fairfax, but defensively they kind of hold their own. They're pretty stout in the front seven as well. They didn't leave a lot of lanes to run for Ramo. They would set the edge and kind of keep him turned inside, which is always the game plan. If you're going to stop Ramo, your best chance to stop him is to not allow him to get along the edges and be able to get to that second, third gear, to make him have to turn inside and have to break 2, 3, 4 tackles at a time. And you have a better chance to kind of stop him. And that's what Fairfax did. And when we got to the end of the first quarter, there was no score. But then at the end of the first quarter was where the biggest story that developed in this game. Isaiah Ramo on seemingly a routine sort of tackle, got his leg rolled up on. He went down with an ankle injury, and he didn't play the rest of the way. They were working on it on the sidelines in the second quarter. They retaped it at halftime to see if he can give it a go. He just really couldn't put any weight on it, and he was not able to participate for the rest of the championship. So that stinks for the young man. He's a senior. It's not the way he wanted to have his high school career end. He wanted to be out there. You could tell it was killing him to not be out there. He was on the sideline rooting his guys on, but the ankle injury just permitted him from going. So then a lot of the onus in that offense landed on the shoulders of the backup running back Gomez, who did a pretty decent job. He actually, early in the second quarter, broke the seal on the game with a 49-yard touchdown to get Chatsworth on the board, put him up 7-0 early in the second period. But you knew that the teams were starting to settle into the game at that point, because Fairfax responded right away on the next drive with a big run by their running back Andrews and a personal foul, which is a story of when you cover Chatsworth. One of the things that you're always kind of worry about is those moments where they get a little bit undisciplined, picking up personal fouls at bad times, picking up penalties at inopportune times. This was one of those inopportune times where, coming off the heels of a big run, then a personal foul on top of that, put the ball in Chatsworth territory. But Fairfax had a couple of bad false starts where you could tell the nerves were still there, linemen getting jumpy. They had a couple of false start penalties, forced them into a 4th and long that they couldn't convert. Chatsworth got the ball back. Their defense, Fairfax's defense, to their credit, kind of settled into the game at that point, kind of settled the nerves, stopped Chatsworth's next drive, got him on a 3 and out. And that's when Fairfax was able to kind of do what we've seen them do over the course of this postseason. Levant hit a 72-yarder bomb over the top to Sebastian Nicolo, one of his top targets, to get on the board late in the half. They tied the game at 7-7. A sort of a precursor for how this game would sort of go in the second half with both teams. We had our first turnover of the game come late in the quarter when Leon Chatsworth's quarterback had a pass intercepted by Adrian Moss, returned it down to the 20-yard line of Chatsworth with 2:29 to go in the half. But then Levant, trying to maybe do too much instead of just kind of set the team up in position to maybe get some easy points on the board, he forced the ball into the end zone. It was picked off by Chatsworth, and that's kind of where we went into halftime at 7 apiece. We go into the second half again. You're looking for Ramo. You could tell they had him double, triple taped up. He was on the sideline, so I'm trying to see if he could put any pressure on the leg. You could just tell it just wasn't going to wasn't going to go for him. So you knew Chatsworth was going to have to kind of figure it out with the pieces, because something we've talked about this year with Chatsworth is he is getting ready to leave the program. He's a senior. He's going to go on to play big time college ball. It's going to be on the others around him to kind of be able to pick up the slack. We saw him have to do it early this year when he had the shoulder issue. That kind of took him out for a week. And to Chatsworth's credit, and to the pieces around Ramo's credit, they kind of settled into the game and they kind of held their own. The first big play of the second half was a 28-yard catch run by LaWayne Shade. The big back for Fairfax. And that's the thing about this Fairfax team. When you kind of look at this team and you see some of the weapons they had, it was no surprise that this team ended up in this position. This team was a team in D2, but they looked every bit of the part of a team that could have easily been a D1 team if some things kind of broke right. They had awesome athletes everywhere on the field and a veteran quarterback leading the way. They took the line of a big 28-yard catch and run by LaWayne Shade. Fairfax took the Lions up to the 45-yard line. And then that play was followed up with the other running back, Andrews, had an 18-yard run to push the ball in the Chatsworth territory. A very, very methodical drive, ate up 7 minutes off the clock, ended with a Levante rushing touchdown, which was the first one he had all season. He's a prototypical pocket quarterback. He doesn't like to run. But to his credit, you get in a championship situation, sometimes you just got to make plays. You got to do what you got to do. And Chatsworth were getting after him all day. He was forced to sort of make plays with his legs, and that was the biggest play of the season for Fairfax. He takes it into the end zone, puts them up 14-7, headed into the fourth quarter. Chatsworth comes back. They put together a methodical drive of their own. They take the ball into the end zone, tied the game up with about halfway through the fourth quarter at 14-14. Now, the first, or maybe the biggest controversial moment of the game occurred on Fairfax's next drive. Levant hit a Fairfax receiver over the middle, Tellez, with a pass. To me, it looked like a catch and a turn. I considered what I was looking at to be a football move. It looked as if he caught the ball and then a Chatsworth safety came and punched the ball out. It looked to me like it could have easily been called a catch and a strip and a fumble recovery for Chatsworth, but the referees conferred. They talked about it on the field and they ruled it an incompletion. I think that was a huge moment in the game because the way Chatsworth had begun to kind of chew up the game, which is something that you deal with Chatsworth. They pound on you, they pound on you, they pound on you. And once they get to a place where your front begins to get tired, that's when you go into that patented Chatsworth Marvin Street 8-minute offense of just grinding up first downs, grinding away the clock, and then putting a touchdown on you late in the proceedings, but when you're not having enough time to get back. Had that play gone their way and they called that a fumble, I would think that Chatsworth would have got the ball and maybe grinded that game to a halt. They actually have a kid who can kick field goals if they would have been able to get the ball inside the 15 or so. And I think that was an opportunity for Chatsworth to win that game 17-14 and we're eating the clock away. But instead, Fairfax kept the ball. They drove. Chatsworth put a stop to the drive. They get the ball back. Chatsworth's driving again. But that's the one I left out. My apologies. Not only did Ramo get hurt, but then his backup also got hurt. and Gomez. So they were left with the true freshman having to take all the snaps out of the backfield. And it was here we saw a fumble inside of 2 minutes to go. They were in Fairfax territory. It was just a bad pitch. Ball just kind of, I don't know if it was just miscommunication, or the back just kind of was moving too quickly, and the ball kind of hit him in the face. But it was a fumble. Fairfax recovered it. Fairfax gets the ball back. They actually put together a drive. They get the ball pretty deep. This, again, another curious moment in the game. Fairfax has the ball. Looks like it's for sure they're going in to win the game. They get the ball down. They hit a big pass play. Levant hits his running back running down the sideline. It was miscommunication. Somehow the running back gets behind the defense. He's down on inside the 5, inside of 41 seconds to go. The play calling was a little weird here. Fairfax still had a timeout in their back pocket, but for some reason decided not to use it. I don't know why they didn't run the ball and try to mitigate some of the risk, but instead of running the ball, they tried to pass it in, and Chatsworth, kudos to their front 4, jailbreak, get in the backfield, sacked Levant before he had a chance to get rid of the ball, and that pretty much ended the game in regulation there. So Fairfax actually had the ball inside the 5 and had a chance to win the game in regulation, but I think the play calling left a little bit to be desired. Game headed to overtime. Good into overtime. Chatsworth gets the ball first. They pick up a first down. They're grinding away at the Fairfax defense. But then the young running back Del Toro fumbled again, mishandles the pitch, puts the ball in the ground. Fairfax gets the ball back. Now Fairfax has the ball with a shot to win the game. The Chatsworth defense actually kind of does its job the first 3 downs. They put Fairfax in a situation where it was a 4th and long. But to Ivan Levant's credit, a senior quarterback who has been a supreme arm talent all season long for Fairfax, makes a perfect pass into the back corner of the end zone. Darvin Joseph goes up, makes a spectacular catch, comes down with the ball, and it's all she wrote. Fairfax walks it off in overtime with a 20-14 win. Heartbreak for Chatsworth. They were right there. They played well. They played well against a red-hot Fairfax team, but it was they came up a little bit short. Nevertheless, it was a great season for Chatsworth. I'm sure the way that this team plays, they've got a lot of young talent coming back. Ramo will be done. He's going to move on to college, but I expect that team to still be competitive next year. And with this and coming this close, they'll use it as fuel next year to try to get back. So nevertheless, congratulations to Chatsworth on a good season, but congratulations to Fairfax winning their 6th city championship, 20-14 in overtime.
That's a heartbreaking way to go. It hurts. But then on the other side, that's exhilarating when you win those. And tip my hat to both teams.
Yeah.
They played their hearts out, left it all out on the field, and no excuses. None.
No.
It's a game. It happens. And you play with what you got, and they all did. And at the end of the day, someone's got to win and someone's got to take the loss. Congratulations to the Fairfax Lions, 2023 D2 City Section champions. But that now takes us into the other game that we were monitoring very closely. It was the Open Division Championship, Birmingham versus Garfield, and we've touched on it during our bracket breakdown a few weeks ago, and kind of every week since, that there are teams gunning for this Patriots program, coaches that want to take them now, players that want to have bragging rights to say we were the ones. But everyone's going to have to wait about 10 months. Because, like we said in the Open, Birmingham came out on top, 49-7. Kaylie, take this baby away.
Yeah, so for a city championship, and not really much of a surprise either, but this is a really dominant win for Birmingham. Obviously, the game wasn't even close. The game started with a really big breakaway run. I believe it was like, I can't remember exactly who it was, but it was like an 80-yard run brought Birmingham right to the doorstep of the end zone. They were able to score fairly quickly on their first drive, but at this point it was already halfway through the first quarter because Garfield started off with the ball and chewed up like the first, I want to say, like 6 minutes of the quarter with no success. So the first score of the game actually ended up coming from Antrell Harris, number 16. He is a junior. I spoke with his dad as well. His dad's one of the photographers for Birmingham. So every time and he's a really good photographer too. He's not just focused on watching his son play. He's focused on snapping good pictures. Luckily for him, I'm getting all the plays on video. So after that exciting touchdown, his dad always, there was a couple touchdowns a couple weeks ago too. So this has become a pattern of his dad coming up to me after he makes a big play and asking for the video, which that's what we're there for. We're there to get everything on tape and in video and on picture and make sure that we're sharing it with you guys because we want these players to have as much content as possible to promote themselves. But yeah, that was an exciting way to start the game, break the ice. After that, the first quarter or the first half, I should say, didn't really have much going on for the Garfield side. I will say, to their credit, they are probably one of the toughest defensive programs that Birmingham has seen out of their other city section opponents this year. So they were able to get a few successful stops from Birmingham. It's like, even though the score was 49-7, it's not like Birmingham was scoring on every single drive and putting it away. It did seem like even starting in the second half that Garfield was going to try and, make up. I think at that point it was a 26-point deficit that they were facing. And so at that point, Garfield actually got their first score as well. So they were able to put one away, but that was the only score that they had the entire rest of the game. Birmingham just put work on them after that. I will say also in the first half, things started to get really chippy right before halftime. So we had a couple plays actually. Both of them were quarterback keeps. One was Kingston Tisdale. The other was Birmingham's other quarterback, Javen Hall. And in both cases, they both run to the right side and up the sideline to try to get a first down and are met with like helmet-to-helmet contact from Garfield's defense. And to the point where, and this is another thing I want to point out about this game, the energy from the coaches was much more, not encouraging isn't the best word, but reinforcing rather than critical of the Birmingham performance. You saw a lot of situations where maybe early on in the season or in previous games where the coaches might have like reprimanded or corrected a play, where in this case it was all celebratory. Even when there was things were getting chippy, words were getting said, players were getting asked not to get put back in the game, not officially ejected, but off the record ejected. The coaches still weren't mad. Like the coaches were still like, you do what you had to do. You're doing what you have to do. Keep it up. Just what happened out there. So that was a complete, I want to say shift in energy too on the coaching side from Birmingham that I think just made the game so much more exciting. I mean, Birmingham, their program is so dominant and so they can be so exciting to watch, especially against good opponents. So to finally get to the end of the season and to the city championship and see all of that culminate and come together and be the team that we've seen win the championship the last 3 years prior as well. That was really what's the word I'm looking for? Fulfilling. It was really fulfilling to see. So I want to give shout outs, performances this game. Kingston Tisdale, obviously it was him and Peyton Waters doing the Tisdale Water Show. yet again. And then because of how great they were playing, Javen Hall got a lot of playing time as well. They didn't have to rely completely on Kingston for this game. Javen Hall also put up a couple scores too. So shout out to him. Antrell Harris, like I said before, got the first score of the game. He had several really impressive first downs and receptions as well. Shout out to Antrell Harris. Ronell Hewitt, as always. I cutting through the Garfield defense like butter. That kid can push through a line. I'll tell you that. Tonga twins, obviously, they're always doing the work that they need to do. And another shout out, I haven't shouted this kid out before, but the last couple times I've watched Birmingham, and he's known lovingly by the coaching staff as Waterbed, but this kid will just lay other teams out. His name is Christian Flowers. So shout out to Christian Flowers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So some observations that I just had watching this game. It was despite the score, it was kind of fun to watch. It was fun to see Birmingham kind of put the ribbon on another dominant city section season. One of the things that was interesting, especially at the outset, is you saw while Birmingham really sort of showed you why they're the top team. What was interesting at the beginning of the game is watching these two teams sort of kind of have to absorb like those body blows from each other right out of the gate. Because the thing that was interesting, and it kind of goes to what I was talking about all season long in terms of how these teams have been preparing to kind of come after Birmingham. Garfield came out physical. Like you can tell the game plan was, we're not going to wait for you to punch us in the face. We're going to punch you in the face. They ran the ball right that first drive. They ran the ball right at Birmingham and was like, all right, let's go. We coming after you. Now, of course, Birmingham is prepared for this because the best preparation is how they go after each other in practice, right? So this is nothing new. They were kind of able to kind of batten down the hatches and not give up points there. But it was the same thing. To Garfield's credit, they sort of did the same thing. Ronell Hewitt punched him in the face with a long run right off the bat, but they kind of held down the fort that first drive and kind of kept them off the board. But when you're talking about two quality teams, the difference in these sort of games, right? You see it on the NFL level with the Chiefs is like you can play well, but the minute you make a mistake, like great teams make you pay immediately. That first touchdown was so beautiful because they went double to the side. They put Antrell and they put Peyton Waters on the same side. They had Peyton Waters go run the underneath route. They had Antrell run over the top, and it forced the Garfield DBs to kind of figure out who they were going to go after. They both jumped at Peyton Waters, and rightfully so, right? Because he's the guy. He's the money man in that offense. And what happened? Kingston Tisdale did what we know him to do. He was calm. He saw them. He saw both of them jump his underneath receiver. Beautiful ball right over the top, like a pillow came right down in his hands. Took it to the house. And you could see the Garfield players look at each other like, damn, like we were doing so well. And just like that, they can. That's what Birmingham can do. They make you pay for your mistakes. Another part in that game, right? So they're 7-0. Garfield has the ball. I don't even remember who was guarding him. I don't remember which DB it was. I'm not sure. I don't think it was Peyton Waters, but kid makes a beautiful route coming off the line. There's a hole in the middle of Birmingham defense. I think the receiver's name was Barnes. I mean, the ball hits him in the hands. I think he took his eyes off of it because I think he knew the Red Seas had parted and he might have went the distance if he caught it, but he dropped it because he took his eye off the ball because he was worrying about running before he caught the ball. And that was sort of Garfield's chance to kind of like, boom, you hit that play, you get it 7-7. Now you can make Birmingham feel like they're in the game. You don't hit it, and then next thing you know, Birmingham gets the ball, goes right down the field. And also, I think a turning point in that game too, and I felt like with the Garfield side, sometimes the coaches have to, like to Kaylie's point, this is the first game where you felt like the Birmingham coaches sort of kind of were a steadying presence and not like chastising the kids and kind of propping them up. I felt like it was a little bit of the opposite on the Garfield side. I feel like the pressure of the moment got to him because, yes, it was controversial, the second touchdown. Yes, maybe with that catch, that Peyton Waters catch in the end zone, maybe it hit the ground. Maybe they stopped him short of the goal line, but they called it a touchdown regardless. The Garfield coaches spent the next 12 minutes arguing with the referees. Oh, we getting screwed. Da, 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 da. And meanwhile, your kids still got to play. It's still a championship game going on because they ain't like the referees.
But with the whole thing with the refs, that had no impact on how the refs were calling their plays. They gave Birmingham almost 100 yards and they gave Garfield 100 yards near in penalties.
Yeah.
On behalf of Garfield.
Yeah.
And also, like I said, I get everything on video.
Mm-hmm.
And I got that catch on video. His toes are in the end zone before he comes down on the other side of the line.
Yeah, no,
so
that
that
catch
catch was that was a good call as well on behalf of the refs. I will say the reffing this game, not much to be argued with. And even when they had the opportunity to kick kids out of the game for running their mouths at each other, they didn't.
Yeah. No, it was just that one drive that was hilarious where number 9 is running off at the mouth on the sideline, and they were like, you know what, 50 yards. Like, listen, I don't know why you're still talking when you're up 4 touchdowns, but fine. All the flags. It was just a flag shower, and they put Garfield inside the 15, and it was like, and I remember watching that and saying to myself, well, y'all better score. Because if you thought the trash talking was bad now, if we give you 50 yards worth of trash talking penalties and you don't put the ball in the end zone, well, we're never going to shut up.
They sure didn't. But that, I mean, like, it's not like Garfield wasn't trying to put the beat down on them either. Just like how you said earlier, how they were a tough opponent and they were coming in to smack some people in the mouth too. They definitely tried it.
It's just the margins of error when you go in against Birmingham are so slim because there were times, this big third times, they broke Garfield's back over and over again, be 3rd and 7, and here comes Tisdale to Peyton Waters and converting for another first down and keeping the chains moving. And it was just, you could feel the air just get sucked out of Garfield every time Peyton Waters, number 7, every time 17 made a catch and came up with a first down. You can feel a little bit of the life come out of Garfield every time. And just a quick note, because 2 kids who were new to the Birmingham program, but were contributors all season long. Javen Hall, cool way for him to go out and finish his high school career. He wasn't the starter, but they would give him time and play. And in this championship game, I felt like the coaches did a really good job of giving him an opportunity to kind of like get his feet wet and playing in the championship game. And he had a spectacular run, touchdown run on when he just tiptoed up the sideline on one of those. And I was like, that was good for that young man to kind of experience that and get that moment and celebrating in the championship game.
I know, and we all tilted our heads when Javen and Drayden went to Birmingham. Everyone kind of tilts their heads. I was like, why is that a smart move? But it's definitely worked. And I mean, I see it now. Hindsight's 2020, but you see now that it makes perfect sense for Birmingham because now with their younger quarterback like Kingston, he can take time off, come to the sideline, get retaped up. Same with Peyton Waters. Now that they have this deep talent on their team, that gives them the opportunity to not get injuries, to keep their kids healthy, to make sure that they're able to make these mid-game adjustments that other teams might not have the benefit of being able to make because they're relying so heavily on 1 or maybe 2 guys.
And to that point, Drayden Fowles is another guy whose name I have written down because him being a junior, this is sort of the precursor now for him. And Peyton Waters is on his way up to be a Husky. He's going to UW. They're going to have a lot of these guys are going to graduate, but that 1-2 punch is coming back, and that offense is going to be built around Kingston Tisdale and Drayden Fowles as seniors being that 1-2 punch, being electric. And Drayden Fowles as a kid, he showed you in this game, you put the ball in his hands, electric things happens, and you know with a whole entire offseason to sort of kind of get to really utilize him as the weapon that he can be, you're going to see him line up everywhere next season because that kid can do it all. He's going to be probably Kingston's #1 weapon, and it's going to be exciting to see. So congratulations to Birmingham. Like I said, that entire senior class will be able to, for the rest of their lives, tell their kids and their kids, I don't know what it's like to lose in the city. You lost in the city section? I don't know what it's like because I never did it. So you have a whole, like, that's something that was a legacy sort of defining moment for some of these kids who are getting ready to leave the program. So kudos to them. It was amazing. And you know what? They got a good shot. I'm looking at the bracket they're in. It won't be easy, but I don't think Del Norte is a team that's unbeatable. I think that they've got a real good shot to kind of cement that legacy even further with a state championship. So good luck
So
to them on that.
I have a quick question for you, Kenny, and I thought about
Mhm.
this when I was watching the game on Saturday night. I know we've talked in previous weeks when we were just covering our Valley teams about how this conglomerate super team that Birmingham has kind of tried to build over the last few years in order to maintain their dominance has created a suffering point in terms of like competitiveness between all the teams in the Valley. The talent is obviously not distributed equally, and sometimes it can make it so there's certain matchups that are less exciting because they're like I just said, the talent's just not spread evenly.
Mhm.
Is it better to forego a super competitive, exciting regular season in order for them to have the opportunity to be as dominant in the postseason? So does it make sense for them to have, I don't know if poach is even the appropriate word to use here, but is it appropriate for them to have poached Javen Hall and Drayden Fowles from Elko in order to now give themselves the optimum chance of going all the way to state and potentially winning state this year?
Now, sorry, can I
Mhm.
jump in real quick before Kenny? This is something we have talked about kind of off. I'll say off the record. It's not necessarily poaching because, again, they can't, according to the rules, they can't go after these kids. These are two young men who decided after their season ended last year, after the school year was done, took a look at everything, listened to the people that they listened to, and decided that Birmingham was where they needed to be. And so they transferred out. Personally, I would much rather a lot of these kids stay in their programs. And it's nothing against what Birmingham has doing. There's a reason kids want to go there. They want to go there because they know they're going to win. And they're going to get eyeballs to play at the next level. But again, personally, I think had Fowles and Hall stayed at El Camino, that El Camino team would have been so much stronger this year.
Mm-hmm.
They might not have beaten Birmingham, but they could have gone on a similarly deep playoff run with those two gentlemen anchoring the offense, and it would have given the young freshman at quarterback 1 year of seasoning before taking the helm, and it would have worked wonders for that program. Now, again, these are young men who are making decisions for themselves, listening to the people that give them their advice, and they did what they felt was best for them. So, whether we like it or not, or agree with it or not, it was their choice, and it worked out for them.
Kenny, what do you think?
So, a couple things. I don't think it's so much as poaching as it is when these young men have an opportunity to kind of make sort of decisions that they think are going to put them in the best position for their either their future or just how they choose to finish their high school career. Clearly, when we're talking about like Javen Hall just felt like this was the best thing for him in terms of how he wanted to finish his high school career. And let's be honest, I don't think it hurt him in terms of what offers will be there available to him to play on the next level. I'm sure every JUCO within the sound of our voice are going to kick the tires and see if he wants to come there to come play next year. So winning is the ultimate advertisement, right? This team has been dominant for so long. There are going to be kids who just see it and be like, well, that's going to put me in the best position to win or to be noticed or to get to do things. Like I said, this team went to Steele, Texas this year. You only get to do those things when you sort of build a program that's recognizable enough that a team in Texas will want you to come and play there and get to experience some of these things, right? So, and because that's what I'm saying, like you look at Drayden Fowles, of course, Drayden Fowles looked at it and said, I could stay at Elko, or I can go to Birmingham and set myself up to where after my SOP, I'm going to contribute this year, and then I get to be the lead dog at the best school in the city for my senior year, which is going to give him a boost in terms of trying to get an undersized back, trying to get to the next level to play big time football, right? Mm-hmm. Also, when you look at what Birmingham is doing, I think it is positive in the ultimate specter of things, because there always has to be the team that everybody is gunning for. If everything around you is mediocre, I have a tendency I believe that everything stays mediocre. When you look at the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs became so dominant, it forced teams in the AFC to make decisions to build your roster to try to beat that team, because if you don't, they're going to kick your ass every week. So you saw what the Chargers loaded up with their talent. Is it working? Well, but they tried it. Look at
more on that on the other podcast.
Look at what Baltimore's doing. Look at what Cincinnati's doing with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and putting no talent around them. Look at what Buffalo was doing. Look at how it made the rest of that conference have to raise their level. And now you're talking about 8, 9, 10 teams that can make the playoffs. We're going to start to see that. My prediction is we're going to start to see that in the Valley, and we're starting to see it in the city in general. Look at Garfield, back-to-back championship appearances. Did they get it done? No, but this team looked even better than the team last year. Naeem Morgan made them look like they didn't even belong in that damn game. I didn't feel like Garfield didn't look like they belong. I just think that when the margins of error are so slim, that Birmingham is so good that they're going to make you pay for every mistake you make. Is that going to help Garfield get better in the long run? Probably. And they're probably going to be in a good position to come back there next year and try to take another stab at them. Go back to the mid-2000s. What Birmingham is now, that's what Taft was. Taft gave rise to Birmingham because it forced Birmingham as a program to say, we have to put our resources in the right places so we can go and kick their ass. And now they're the top dogs and everybody else is chasing them. Force the rest of the city to galvanize their resources, because if you don't, this team is going to win 10 city championships, because the train is not going to leave the track unless Rose tomorrow takes a college job somewhere or goes to a southern section school somewhere. This train is going to keep rolling. So it's going to be about what Emerson is able to do at Taft. It's going to be about what Bucky Brooks is building over there at Granada. Can he sort of kind of replenish the tank? Can Chatsworth continue to sort of kind of try to build a bully? Can like Elko? Oh, and to your point, Javen Hall left, but look at what it allowed Elko to do. Now they got this big man baby, Kevin Hawkins, who got a whole year of experience as a sophomore, which he would not have gotten if Javen Hall was there. And now he's going to be ready to kick everybody's ass next year. Now having all this experience under his belt of playing a whole year, a year earlier than they probably expected him to even do so. So you're starting to see what Birmingham has built is going to build everybody else up around them. And to me, it's a positive. Now, you're still going to have kids that want to go there. Also, what you're going to start to see is if everybody goes there, everybody can't play. So some of these kids might decide they might need to do a Javen Hall and go play somewhere else. That's positives. That, like I said, because what Birmingham is doing is because they're bringing all the talent here, They're getting kids like the Tonga twins to come here. That's going to make other kids come to some of these schools in the Valley and come play as well. So, I mean, do we want just one team to be dominant? No, but one dominant team starts the dominoes to build other dominant teams around them. So I think in the long run, it's all positive. I think that Birmingham is going to be on top for a while, but I think they're going to be looking over their shoulder pretty soon because some of these other teams are kind of starting to show signs that they can start to build something that can be competitive around them.
Yeah, and all that competitiveness just leaves more stories for us to tell.
Great.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we do. We bring these stories to you. We try to find the ones that no one is talking about, as you all have hopefully gotten to see. But of those two championship games, if you want more in-depth coverage on that, go to ValleySportsTelegram.com. Richard Espinoza was there. He's got the write-ups. They're great, full of pictures from our amazing intern, Ben Becker. So, but all that said, you guys, thank you again for watching. It's been a heck of a season. As we say all the time, this is not it. Basketball season, soccer season in the winter is here. So we're going to be getting our feet wet, jumping right into it. There's already some exciting matchups. Let me just slide my notes up. There's exciting matchups all throughout the Valley, and we're trying to find ways to bring those stories to you. So, as we say every week, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Ring the little bell so you can get notified when we drop these, because they're coming and we're growing and we're excited about where we're going. Thank you again, and we'll see you all soon.
Peace.